What's going on, everybody? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Ball Sports Network. Thank you guys for the continued support. Continue to hit the like, share, subscribe, thumbs up button, all that good stuff. Now, Stephen A. Smith has doubled down on his stance that Steve Nash getting the Brooklyn Nets head coaching job is white privilege. Just not only in the NBA, but in America. And he kind of clarified things this time. And, last time I was on here, I was kind of saying, I don't know if that's white privilege, Stephen A. I think that's just the way the NBA does things. They hire former players to get coaching jobs all the time with no experience. And then they just, they help their buddies out. They help NBA guys, whether it's in the coaching arena or in the general managers in the front office and all kinds of stuff. Now, obviously, those trends are disproportionately white when the NBA is 80% black, and that is a problem. So I guess that could be a form of white privilege, but I didn't think that necessarily this instance was white privilege. Now, he went to clarify his stance on this. He went on to say today that it's an example of white privilege because not only because Steve Nash didn't have any basketball head coaching experience, but it's because of the situation that Steve Nash was put in. Yes, we've seen black coaches get hired with no experience. Derek Fisher, Doc Rivers, a bunch of other guys, Jason Kidd or whoever, but they were never put in this situation, right? This situation being the Brooklyn Nets are going to be the best team maybe in the entire basketball league next season, right? They're going to be the best team in the East for sure. They're going to be better than Milwaukee. They're going to be better than Toronto. We see they ain't no good. They're going to be better than the Celtics. They have one of the best. Kevin Durant's going to be top 15 players ever when his career's over. Kyrie Irving's one of the best players in the NBA right now, and they're both still in their primes. No black coach has ever walked into a situation like this. And not only have they never been able to walk into a situation like this with no experience. Steve Nash didn't even know the man wanted to coach. And he walks into a top 3 team in the league. Next year, when he gets to coach this team, it'll be a top 3 team in the league. And just to give you some context into what Stephen A. And now I'm starting to agree with him. Yeah, I'm on the side of, now I do. You're open my eyes, Stephen A. I've been convinced. I think it is some white privilege going on. And here's another reason why. Because the Brooklyn Nets had a perfectly good candidate in-house that was black. Jacques Vaughn led the Nets into the playoffs. Now, obviously, they got beat in the first round of the playoffs, but he led that team. And they played pretty good, especially in the seeding games. Played really well in the playoffs, and he was an in-house candidate. Jacques Vaughn also showed his team what it means to be a black man in America. When John Lewis died, there was a video that went viral that Jacques Vaughn showed his team who John Lewis was, what he did, and the contributions he made, not only to the black people, but to America, and how important of a historical figure he was, especially in the black community. That right there is what we call a leader of men. And what NBA teams need are leaders of men, especially young black men. We're talking about 19-year-olds that become millionaires. Right? Who better to help manage a 19-year-old black millionaire than a black man, than a former player, or not even a former player, but a black man that knows how to manage his money, a black man that's had some success to get to where he's at. And that's why it is critical for these teams to hire black coaches, right? That is why it would be imperative for the Brooklyn Nets to just go ahead and promote Jacques Vaughn. Or if you don't want Jacques Vaughn, okay, there's plenty of other candidates out there. There's Mark Jackson, who's from New York. There's Patrick Ewing, who played in New York, who's now coaching college teams because he couldn't get a job in the NBA. No NBA team would hire Patrick Ewing, who was an assistant for years and years. Jawan Howard, the same instance, were assistants on NBA teams for years and couldn't get an NBA head coaching job. But guys like Steve Nash can walk into a job with one of the best teams in the NBA. I get it. Yes, that is white privilege. That is unfair. That isn't right. I mean, we're talking a league that's 80% black. 80% that has 17 or 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds that become millionaires overnight. Millionaires as soon as they sign their name on the dotted line. Who is better to lead them than black men who went through the same thing? Black men who have scratched and clawed their way up this profession that don't get an opportunity. But guys like Steve Nash, and this is no offense to Steve Nash, but it is what it is. Guys like Steve Nash who were broadcasting soccer games. Steve Nash was calling soccer games. He was a broadcaster on a soccer network. Come on, man. A soccer network. And now he gets to be the leader of men, of this group of men who are going to be one of the best teams in the NBA instantly now that Kevin Durant's Achilles is healed, or once it gets healed and then once Kyrie Irving gets right. I get it. I mean, I'm looking through the current head coaches in the NBA, and I'm looking at the teams that are coached by black men and the situations that these men went into. Okay, so we got Jacques Vaughn, who was the assistant, who was the interim coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He didn't get the job, but he'll be the highest paid assistant. And you expect me to clap it up for that? I don't care about that, man. I mean, that's cool, but y'all should have just, if y'all gonna make him the highest paid assistant, obviously that means you want him there to run the team, because Steve Nash ain't never been a head coach before. So what better way to run the team than the guy who was just coaching them, right? So you keep this like, oh, I'm going to keep Jacques Vaughn here, you know, to be basically to do Steve Nash's job while he's learning the job, right? Like, that makes it even worse. You keep Jacques Vaughn on staff, make him the highest paid assistant, because he's going to have to do the job while Steve Nash learns the job. Now, Steve Nash is a Hall of Famer, so he's played basketball, and he knows, you know what I'm saying? He knows how coaches work, so he knows the game. It's not like he's a novice or an imbecile. He is a Hall of Fame basketball player. But he is a first-time head coach, and he will be learning the job on the job. Let's just be honest. I mean, even though he playing basketball and coaching basketball and running a basketball team are two totally different things, right? That's why there are great basketball players like Michael Jordan who weren't great coaches, who are even worse executives. You know what I'm saying? That's why Michael Jordan ain't the greatest executive as he was the greatest player, because it's a totally different job. So Steve Nash being a point guard, a Hall of Fame point guard, and being a Hall of Fame head coach, that's two totally different things. Now, luckily for him, he has Kevin Durant on his team. He has Kevin Durant, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyrie Irving, you know, DeAndre Jordan. He has a bunch of great players. So he's walking into a perfect situation. But I mean, I get it. I mean, yes, we're looking at some of the head coaches in the NBA. Dwayne Casey, for example, he got fired from the Toronto Raptors, who went on to win a championship the year he won Coach of the Year. And them winning the championship, you know, shout out to Nick Nurse. He's a great coach, but that had nothing to do with the fact that they got rid of Dwayne Casey. It's the fact they went out and got Kawhi Leonard. You telling me Dwayne Casey couldn't have led the Coach of the Year, couldn't have led the Toronto Raptors to win a championship with Kawhi Leonard? You don't think Dwayne Casey could have done just as good of a job as Nick Nurse, and just as good of a job as Nick Nurse did and win the championship? I think he could have. And, you know, the fact that he won Coach of the year before, or that same year he got fired, leads me to believe that he could have. So, yeah, Stephen A. doubled down on white privilege in the NBA, and I'm here to agree with him. It definitely happens, man. We never see black coaches walk into situations like the current one that's happening in Brooklyn. When the Lakers hired their coach, they didn't hire a black man. They hired Frank Vogel, which, you know, Frank Vogel is a proven commodity, but there could have been a black man. But there was no out of the blue, no coaching experience. Like, they weren't just gonna go out and hire Rich Paul or something, you know what I mean? Like, or Maverick Carter to coach the team, because, you know, some guy with no random guy with no basketball experience, no head coaching experience. So yeah, was it a thing of white privilege? Absolutely. So, you know, Stephen A., you convinced me. I've changed my mind. It definitely was white privilege, and he doubled down, and I'm here to agree with him. Once again, my name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Ball Sports Network. Thank you guys for watching, and continue to like and subscribe to the podcast. I bring videos to you every single day, and we'll see you next time.